welcome to the show to be named later. I'm your host, Jonny Voss, and I'm alongside one of the members of the original Fab Five, Noah Stoerzinger. What's going down, buddy?
Not too much. I don't know which Fab Five you were watching, but I wasn't part of the basketball one. So.
Oh, you were not. That would have been the University of Michigan. So good for you staying out of that. And that was, I believe, Willie Burton was supposed to be a part of that Fab Five. I don't think a lot of people know that, but that's way before your time. So we can go a different route if you like.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. So
you don't know who Willie Burton is? Oh my God, there's so much to teach you. Okay, well, here's the thing. I just want to start breaking right into it because there's so much to talk about, and that is what is great. Like, so this is the third time that we have talked or done a podcast in the last 7 days, and you'd go, okay, there's not much Jonny and Noah can talk about any longer, I would think, except for the fact that that's what the beauty of having this podcast is that it just writes itself, and you go, okay, it might be a slow time or a slow part in the week. Nope. We're gonna keep going. And so it's funny because I just watched our latest podcast that we recorded on Monday night, and I was watching it and I was getting all fired up, and I was like, no, why didn't I say this while we were talking? And why didn't we cover that? And I guess that's where I want to head to right now, unless there's something else that you want to talk about right off the bat.
No, you're in the driver's seat. Let's go.
Okay. So we're going to go with Vikings football. They have a huge game coming up Sunday, 3 o'clock. That's local. That's Kansas City or Minneapolis time against the Oakland Raiders. Yep, I said it. And the Raiders, tough team to figure out. You don't know who's going to show up, just like the Vikings. So it should be an interesting game. The Vikings had not one, but two, I guess, headlines or pretty big news in preparation of this game. Number one, they named Josh Dobbs as starting quarterback. Number two, Justin Jefferson was activated and should be playing on Sunday. So let's because there might be a long section on the Justin Jefferson deal, but let's start with Josh Dobbs. I think that we're in agreement. Like, that is who they need to go with on Sunday. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And we mentioned it a bunch too, right? Like to me, it was like you go with Dobbs or, whoever you're going with doesn't put you in, I think, the best spot to win that football game.
And I don't think that Mullins or Hall, the rookie, gives you what we're saying, the best opportunity. And I mean, I got to give it to KOC, man. Like saying, look, I'm not going to judge you based on the Bears game. That's got to give your quarterback that's starting on Sunday a little bit more confidence going in and saying, now, if it's a shit show again, you can reshuffle the deck. And that's what I think that we have to look at going forward, because in my opinion, the next two games, if the Vikings, or as Vikings fans, we really want to get to the playoffs, or that's a reality for us, I think our next two games will make or break, or will tell us whether or not the Vikings are going to be playing in January or not. Don't you think?
Absolutely. And again, it's a weird spot to be in, right? Of especially just with where the NFC is. But like you said, I think Dobbs gives you the best chance to win. Maybe it definitely puts some more confidence in you, I think, with KOC going with him. Also, assuming he plays, like, to have the best wide receiver in football out there, like, that's got to give you a little bit of something, right?
Yep. And that's what I was going to touch on. And I don't think that we can continue to talk so much about Dobbs. Like I say, if he completely lays an egg on Sunday, nothing gained, nothing lost, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, you can still go out and try to win that game, because you never know with the Raiders what team's going to show up. And if it doesn't go your way, you tried, there it is. Okay. But there was something we talked about on our last podcast. You bring Justin Jefferson back in, and I think it was a question that you asked. Does it matter who the quarterback is if Justin Jefferson's in the game? Like, is there such a line between those three quarterbacks that is Justin Jefferson even going to make an impact on Sunday's game? And I'm going to say right away, and I can't believe that we didn't talk about it last time, absolutely he does. Whether you get the ball to him or not, he is now going to command double coverage, maybe triple coverage, or a completely different defensive scheme for the Raiders, who, not knowing, okay, now we know Dobbs is going to be the starting quarterback. It doesn't necessarily mean across the board that your game plan going in on Sunday is going to go all the way across the board as well. And so adding Justin Jefferson, to me, the best wide receiver in the game right now. However, it's been seven games. It changes the entire landscape offensively for what the Vikings are going to try to accomplish. Don't you think?
Yeah. I think, yeah, you put it in a good perspective. I think when I asked that question, it was more of, well, kind of, it was, so if Dobbs is your quarterback, if Justin Jefferson is out there, that guy can catch, it seems like, virtually anything that gets thrown to him. The issue we saw with Dobbs was, he's not a great passer. He's just not.
Right.
And the Bears kind of, they knew that.
But will that open up now that you have a different weapon? But it's not even just a different weapon. It's not like, having a Saturday night special underneath your or in your bootstrap or anything like that. You're talking about, you've got flat out RPG, Uzi, whatever it is. And so because you have so many other weapons, damn the running game, I don't think that that's really going to help us. But now you have so many other options. So even if you don't get the ball to Jefferson, you've got to imagine that there will be open targets, which might open Dobbs's game up. Don't you think?
Absolutely, because I think, yes, I mean, I think your offense changes. The way you're going to run is going to be different. And now that I'm thinking about it, gets me excited, especially for guys like, he got used to throwing to guys like Addison and guys like Hawkinson. And when you got Jefferson out there, I mean, those guys are probably going to get some better looks as well. So, it's exciting to think about. And I think Dobbs just needs to go out there and perform, right?
What kind of game do you expect from a Justin Jefferson on Sunday?
See, go ahead. It's interesting, right? Like, this guy should be 100%, right?
You would think.
Well, and I think about, now, not talking Wolves, but I think about Anthony Edwards, who came back the other night.
Yep. Okay.
And he looked rusty, and he was and he came out and said, I didn't. The second half was a lot better than the first half. The first half, he said, there wasn't any pain. I was just scared of hurting it again, essentially. So that's why with Jefferson, you're like, all right, is this guy gonna perform at 100%? And that's where, you don't know.
Well, to me, he's been 100 motherfucking % for a lot of weeks. Okay. And that is a great segue into what we're talking about with Justin Jefferson, because we talked a little bit about that, the last time around, but I think I had mentioned it on this podcast before that I was not completely sold on the fact that Justin Jefferson was not available for 7 games. And what I mean by that, like I think I mentioned Kevin Seifert talking about him the very next day after he got hurt, gliding and sprinting and running and jumping through the locker room on supposedly a bad hamstring. Now, I know that he kept coming back and saying, well, the hamstring injury, it's such a delicate matter. You don't want to re-injure it because that's going to pay off in the future in a negative way. You have to really be careful. But at that time, we were motherfucking 1-4. And nobody thought that Cousins was going to have or that the defense or that the Vikings as a whole were going to go out and win five in a row or whatever it was. So at the time, I was like, nah, he's just, as Vern Voss used to say, it's what we call a safe. And to me, that's what he was playing, was a safe. Like, hey, I've got a huge fucking contract that's not signed yet. And everybody, including myself, looks at me as the best wide receiver because I'm going to get paid more than any other fucking wide receiver in the history of the NFL. So you know what? If we're going to lose the next 3 or 4 games because we don't know where we're at, we don't have an identity as a team, I'm taking the game off. And I'm going to take the next game off. And I'm going to take the next game off. And what I was surprised by was when the rookie Addison had a couple pretty big games. And I was like, now, wait a minute. Didn't we just have a motherfucker named Stephon Diggs that everybody was so, how did we lose that guy? It seems to me that wide receivers, I'm not going to say they're a dime a dozen, but we filled Diggs' shoes and then some, okay? So then after Addison had a couple pretty big games, I'm like, man, Jefferson's got to be chomping at the bit and going, hold up, Rook. It's not done yet, and you're not shuffling me out of town to Buffalo or to Cleveland or wherever. I've got to come back, and I might have to prove some things, maybe, but didn't do it. And that was during a winning streak. Now you got to think about it. We were 1-4 with Jefferson as our starting wide receiver. What were we after he was hurt? And so I was like, no, you got something maybe to prove. But in the back of my mind, I'm going, no, he's thinking about that contract. And does it get to a point like Karl Anthony Towns last year? Is this just a tanked year, a wasted year? Put that one on, and now next year I'll come out and I'll show everyone why I'm the best wide receiver. And it might not be in purple. That's really that's the problem that I had with this whole thing, because nobody knows.
Right. Yeah, that is the hard part, right? No one knows, and so we'll forever be speculating, and that was the issue with Diggs as well. But let's do an over under then on his game here for Sunday. I'll throw out.
I would love it if he caught 3 passes on Sunday.
See, I was gonna say, what's your over under 85 yards?
Under
85, okay.
Unless he catches one for 79 yards and a touchdown, like I don't see that happening. Do you? I mean, do you?
The last time this guy had under 85 yards this season was his last game he played against the Chiefs, and I don't think did he play the whole game?
No.
Right. So, I mean, it'll be interesting. Again, I think it all also pertains to Mr. Dobbs if he can get.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So you're taking the over on 85 yards receiving, because what's the over under on Dobbs throwing for 100 yards in the game?
Right, and that's
right.
Yeah. So. I mean, we did over under. How many yards do you think he's going to get?
I mean,
with 3 receptions.
3 receptions, anywhere between 25 and 50 yards, if we're lucky.
Okay.
But if he doesn't achieve that, but Hockenson has 12 catches for 95 yards, Addison has 3 catches for 65 yards, Powell has a couple sprinkled in there, but you're talking about a pass-heavy offense, which we don't have a running game, so it's going to have to be. But am I completely confident that the Vikings are going to throw for over 300 yards on Sunday? I don't know. I don't know.
So who, win or lose, who has a big game tomorrow for the Vikings? Or on Sunday, sorry.
On Sunday, defense. I mean, we just lost to a team that never scored a touchdown against us. They still beat us. Maybe 2, pick 6 or something. I mean, I don't know. I'm hoping that it's Josh Dobbs. I'm hoping maybe he has 80 yards rushing and a touchdown, but maybe he sprinkled a couple touchdown passes in there and I mean, you got to think about it. After this game, if Jefferson isn't involved and it's a shit show, is he going to be the diva kind of player that Stephon Diggs was, where he started going, I don't know, and I don't like this. It doesn't feel right. Do I need to go elsewhere? That's what I'm saying. And I don't think that this is a very good litmus test for Justin Jefferson for his first game back. You know what I mean? If Cousins had the reins, I'd be like, dude, that guy, JJ gonna come out and you're gonna see some Randy Moss shit. All right. Yeah. But that's not possible. So, if you want to do what's the new betting site that everyone's raving about, where you can make those prop bets on any player.
Pretty much, I mean, DraftKings, FanDuel.
Right. This is okay. So, to me, the game on Sunday between the Raiders and the Vikings, first of all, you don't bet on your team anyways, but I wouldn't even touch that with any kind of Grinch 80-foot pole, because there is no way you know what you're getting offensively from the Minnesota Vikings. I think defensively, we know that we can take that game over, and if that's what we need, which we do, we're going to be successful. But offensively, man, you don't know if Madison is going to fumble the ball. You don't know if Jefferson is going to get any looks. You don't know if Hawkinson is going to be a target. Good things happen when he is. To me, it's just too tough to call at this point.
Yeah. You mentioned him a little earlier, and I see some Vikings fans on Twitter talking about him. We have our recent, since Jefferson was out, our wide receiver 3, Brandon Powell. What have you seen from Brandon Powell compared to, obviously we got KJ, who's been pretty much a non-factor this season. Some things being thrown out there like, hey, you got Brandon Powell now. Can you flip KJ for something else?
I've liked what I've seen from Powell in many respects. I think he gives you an extra weapon. You know what I mean? Like a ninja throwing star when you're not expecting it, which is different than all the other tools that we have. And so someone like Powell could be very interesting on Sunday, because obviously Jefferson's going to get the attention. Obviously our running game is going to, because we got to establish the run, and our running game is absolutely crap right now. Okay. Osborne hasn't been a factor, and you wonder, the concussion is that playing a factor? Yes, I do believe, but think about that. Powell could be one of those guys, those underrated, unsung guys going in that nobody is going to take into account, and he could have a big game. And to me, it's just another weapon, or it's proof that the Vikings have the tools. I just don't know if they got the right guy pulling the trigger right now at quarterback, but we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your thoughts on that?
It's interesting, especially when, because I think he's a good weapon this year. I think you laid it out nicely of like, no one really knows who this guy is, first of all. And he's had some good plays this year when he's been found. But it does suck to think about KJ's just absolute non-factor in the whole season, really, for how good he's been with us. But when I think about next year, right? I mean, I don't know their contract situations, but is that a a situation where maybe you want to give Powell some more reps, and maybe KJ gets you a couple draft picks next year.
Well, it's good to have options, though, isn't it? I mean, it's good to have options, and if you have that many options as far as the offensive tools, maybe then you can sink money into an offensive line, because the one thing that the reason why Cousins lost so much in the beginning of the year, we were 1-4, was because the offensive line didn't give him the protection he needed. Against the Bears, it was the same story. And guess what happens? You fucking turn the ball over when you don't have protection for your quarterback. So, to me, it's just good to have options going forward, and to see, because, you don't want to call this a throwaway year. Shoot, you're going into the 13th game of the year and we're still relevant, which at 1-4, I thought this was going to be one of those, we're 3-13, but still going to watch the games every Sunday. But it doesn't make it a lot of fun, because there are so many unknowns with this team. At least it's fun to watch on a weekly basis, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I want to make a prediction now, and we can come back later. Is Cousins a Minnesota Viking next year?
Dang, that's a tough question. And I guess if it were up to me and he was willing to say, I'm not going to take a boatload of money, I'd say, yep. I'd be fine with that, because the alternative right now is too many unknowns. I guarantee Josh Dobbs is not going to be
on the team,
probably even mentioned next year, right? There's still a lot of – I listened to Sean Salisbury today on Barrero's show, and he states that there are still many people, himself included, that think that our rookie quarterback, Mr. Hall, has got enough electricity in a bottle to perhaps be that, at least mentioned in the conversation next year. Sean Mullins, fuck off. So you to me, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I guess 5 years ago, I would have never said, let's get Cousins. Let's get him, bring him back here. But right now, I got to think, you're talking about a seedy veteran who has been with this program now for a lot of years. And it's more so than the Joe Mauer thing. Oh, great clubhouse guy. But regardless of his social misgivings, it seems like everybody likes Kirk Cousins quite a bit. And what I've noticed is the fan base likes Kirk Cousins. So I'd say, I'd roll the dice. And if he's willing to, not give a king's ransom for his next contract, but remember, it's his last big contract of his career. I think he still drives a Subaru, though. So don't take the big bucks. Stay here, maybe win a Super Bowl. I don't know.
Absolutely. That was now, I think my one fear is I think the Vikings will probably be looking to sign him for, I don't want to say a discount, but on sale a little bit, for obviously because of the injury. I do think there might be a team who might swoop in and throw him a big bag. So we'll have to see. I think every Minnesota Vikings fan would be excited to hear that Cousins is coming back, just because you also there's just so much uncertainty for next year. So to be able to lock in your biggest position on the team would be great.
Well, and here's the deal: the rookie quarterback Hall, even though he's like 25, right? 24 or 25. He's an old rookie, but he's still a rookie. You could still say I can hold on to him and keep him as one of, the bullets on my clip for the future, because he's not 26 or 27 isn't necessarily way past his prime, and so if I'm looking at next year, I go, I'd rather have someone that's going to take me down the road that he's been instead of trying out somebody fresh. And I think that you could burn a year or two with Hall moving forward. But, that's why I'm on this side of the screen on Sunday. And, those guys know everything. I'm going to ask you this. And for the most part, we don't get too controversial on the show. We don't stir it up. I think you and I keep a lot of things. Well, we're on that new drug, Suppressidol, right? You put everything way, way down inside and, nothing ever builds up and blows up, right? So we just suppress everything. Okay. But I do want to bring this up because it was something I wanted to talk about at the beginning of the season, because you made a comment in our last podcast about Jefferson looking at social media and seeing the negative comments about him not playing, maybe being a chotch, this or that. Your thoughts about pro athletes being so concerned, obsessed, intrigued with what stupid people in the world write on social media. Your thoughts?
That's a good question, because you're obviously at a different, people will look at you a lot differently on social media, with the status that they have. It's hard because I think no one likes anything bad to be said about them. No, absolutely no one likes to hear bad stuff being said about them. When you're on social media and you're that big and you're making that amount of money, people are going to say shit. I also don't know what was said to him. So personally, I'm indifferent with what Jefferson did. If you got to separate yourself, you got to separate yourself. But at the same time, you got to understand, like, people are dicks and you're on social media and they can say what they want. So,
but now, okay, because I don't understand it. Obviously, I'm like, Facebook is the only thing. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on TikTok or Spotify or whatever, Instagram, whatever they are, because I really don't give a shit. Okay. Like, I'm on Facebook because I like to connect with people that I can't see on a daily basis. And I like people to be aware, hey, I'm having a good day. That's great. But I'm not driven by, gee, I wonder what motherfucker's saying about my sweater right now. What? Oh, he said it. Okay. But you're in the age group of Justin Jefferson. So is that something that your generation, you can't go cold turkey. You can't shut it off. You have to know what is being said, whether it's about you or it's about your mom or it's about the chick that you just dated, but now she's dating LeBron James. You know what I mean? Like, is it this obsession with having to know what's going on all the time that pro athletes just can't walk away and go, that's it. I'm not gonna listen anymore because it's starting to fuck with my game.
I don't know if it's an obsession of it. So with my generation and the generations under me, I grew up. I grew into social media. Social media was being created when I was in middle school. So we grew into it. Everyone younger than me has grown with it. And so everyone essentially has it. It is a part of life now. It is very hard for people to turn it off. I've always wanted to. I think it's just there's so much that I don't say rely on, but I get a lot of entertainment from social media, and that's pretty much everyone in my generation. there are people though that, though they have it, but it's not necessarily an obsession. And Jefferson was on social media. It's not like he's posting every day. There are those people that you mentioned where they are obsessed. I think at the same time, like, you're on social media and you can still see what people are saying about you, but to your point, like, if it's fucking with you that much, like, it's still like, if people are saying stuff, I understand it's still the internet, but at the same time, like, it sucks to see what people are saying about you in that kind of light. So
okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, it's I don't blame him in any way, shape, or form for disabling social media. I think for people that were surprised by it, I'm curious why you thought it was surprising. And if you were surprised at it, you were probably one of the assholes that was.
Wait a minute. Wait, what are we surprised by? I didn't catch that part of the story.
Well, there were some people. There were a lot of people that were saying, good for him. I think it's beneficial.
What he disabled, he walked away from social media. He disabled his accounts, or that he did. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, then what am I talking about? I didn't know that. Good for him. That was my solution to the problem.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you knew that, but yeah,
I didn't know that.
He disabled it, and there were some people that were in the light of, like, well, you're a big athlete. I can talk. You make 50 million, whatever. I can talk shit about you all I want, and you're never going to say that when you're right in front of him. That's my issue too with social media. So
you've already beat me to the punch, because that I didn't know. Now, when you say disabled, he blocked people, or he just walked away from it and said, I'm not going to listen to it anymore?
Well, he deactivated Twitter.
Okay. Because to me, that was what every genius should do. And now I got to change my way of thinking about Justin Jefferson, because, I was just ripping on him a few minutes ago, but good for him, because that to me is the answer. Fuck off. Don't listen to it. I was going to bring up Alexander Madison, beginning of the year. I disagreed with him, and that was a conversation I wanted to have with you, because I'm not saying that he should not have a problem with what was said to him, but he brought all of this stuff about racism and, what people wanted to do to their family and that kind of, and to me, I was like, now here's the thing. You have assholes that you are connected with who for some reason think, number one, that their fantasy football team is the pinnacle of sports. And if they lose, they want to hurt you as bad as they're feeling about themselves, because they didn't win their goddamn fucking fantasy football game on Sunday. So they are going to say whatever hateful things, because they don't have that power over a pro athlete that they think a pro athlete has over us by us just watching their games. It's not the same level playing field. You see what I'm saying? And so to me, I know that there are just jerks, and they could be racist in their heart of hearts, but think about how you're going to strike a chord, how you are going to get a reaction in your meaningless life. I'm going to say something that's going to be so offensive or so degrading that this athlete is going to go, and it's not going to change whether he fumbles or fucking rushes for 100 yards or anything like that. You're just being a chotch, okay? So I'm going to say as many hurtful things as I can to try to make someone feel the way I feel, because I hate making $12 an hour and working for Hardware Hank or whatever it is. You understand? But to me, I wanted Madison to understand this and just go, you know what? Don't bring this up. Don't bring things that were said about your family or about racism or anything like that. And I'll tell you why. It was on a selfish deal for me. Those people are idiots, and whatever they said is fucked up. But the reason I didn't want him to come public with it is because if he does fumble on Sunday or he only rushes for 5 yards, I don't want to be able to go, that guy sucks. But you can't say that because 8 people call him a racist, or 9 people said that they wanted to do something to his family members. Okay. That takes away from why I watch sports. I watch sports because you have heroes and you have villains. And you should have every right to say, that guy sucked on Sunday. Oh, but wait, you can't say that because of all the abuse that athletes have been taking for 100 years. And the difference is what you said. There are very few people who will go right up to you, LaTroy Hawkins, to your face and say the same things that are being said online. So do a Justin Jefferson and walk away from it and don't listen to it. That's my whole point. I know that was a lot, but I am really curious what you got to say about that.
It's for me, like, when you are, because there are people that I mean, what I mentioned before, where it's, okay, this guy makes $100 million for the next however many years. I can say whatever the hell I want about him, and he should be fine with it because he's making $100 million over the next 5 years, whatever. I do think when you're on the biggest stage in the world, essentially in America, for these big sports, yeah, there are people that have opinions, and people will let you know, you didn't play good today, you suck today, whatever. There is a line, though, that people cross all the time, and that's absolutely not okay. But I do think when you're on the biggest stage, you're gonna hear some shit, and you gotta be okay with it, right? Like if I'm I mean, there are times when I can't remember who it was. I think it was Miles Straw with the Guardians last year or something, where he something got said in the outfield, and he ran up, jumped onto the fence and screaming at a fan. And it's like, I don't know what was said. And he can say after the game, or he said something racist, whatever. And I don't know if that's true, but at the same time, like, heckling has always just been a part of sports, right? Like it doesn't even, it dates back to long before organized sports were really a thing. You heckled, right? And you're gonna hear that, and you have to be okay with it. When it comes to a point where it is past the line, because it gets to that, yes, then I think you need to pull a Jefferson, and you can pull yourself out of those situations whenever you want. If you're listening to it and feeding into it, I think that's when you're causing an issue for yourself.
I agree. And I have more respect. Like you said, you got to be fine with heckling, and that's fine to a certain point. But I got more respect for Miles Straw coming face to face with someone. If they got enough guts to say whatever it was that pissed him off, at least he's able to defend or get his comeuppance. You know, with the internet, you know, all I see is people saying the most hateful, hurtful things. And it brings me back to a Patrick Swayze movie, Roadhouse, one of the greatest movies ever. And the guy asked him, he says, well, what if someone calls my mom a whore? And he says, is she? There it is. Okay. If someone's going to talk shit on social media, are you upset because you struck a nerve, or because you're so about yourself and what's going on and being said? It doesn't matter, man. Like, you understand my point there with the reference and the
yeah, absolutely. And I think with heckling, for example, like, it's to the point of Miles Straw confronting everything. Like if I'm at a game, right, and I, like, yeah, you'll throw some jabs out there. You do as well. You're never going to cross the line, but if you throw some big ones out there, I think that's when you need to be ready, like, to come face to face with that guy, with whatever you're saying. Like, I think about baseball. You can throw some fun little jabs out there. Like, it's just fun little heckling. It's really not going to piss you off if it's, hey, you're whatever. But there is obviously the line. And if you're going to throw a riskier one out there. Like, I think that's when it's like, would you have said that if you were a foot from that guy, right? So,
right.
I keep bringing up
I keep bringing up LaTroy Hawkins, but when I was a worse human being, I mean, like I say, we went just to make fun of that guy, and I said something, and you got to understand, like the Metronome's bullpen, the worst in the major leagues, you were that far away from them. Like if you could sit and in the late 90s, you could sit that far away because no one was at the Metronome watching those games. I said some things that I should have got punched out for by LaTroy Hawkins. I would have no problem with that. But I mean, I hear him on Barrero's show, and he said, when they would start talking about my family or they would start putting racial slurs in there, yeah, I would call them out, and I would say, let's handle this. Boy, he's from Gary, Indiana, so yeah, right. He's got some cred, but I agree with that, and that's the problem that I have compared to the internet, because everyone is 10 foot tall and bulletproof behind a screen of a fucking computer. So I think we covered it. I think we handled it, and I think we agree to the most part. We agree on this, right?
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
So now we're going to switch to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I had said, like, when I watched our last podcast, I was like, oh, I should have said something. You made a comment about the Spurs, and I was thinking, you're like, they could kick our ass, coming in. And I was like, no, there's no way that they could do that. And yet you thought perhaps, and I watched 3/4 of that game last night, and I was concerned for a little bit of time there. But they handled their business again. And I want to touch upon, because to me, I don't know if I would have played Edwards last night. And maybe that was a game that you had to have. But to me, like, when he's pulling on his hip in the first quarter, and you said that he said that he was worried or concerned about maybe coming down on that hip a different way. It's a completely different injury than we were talking about with Jefferson. But boy, I think Grady used the word rusty. I know you did earlier tonight, and he did not look good. And for a long period of that game, I was like, I don't know, I'm waiting for this run. And there was a time when we went up, I think 69-62, and we had some really, really incredible plays. But it still wasn't decided until the fourth quarter. I think it's a good game for them to have. I still don't know if I would have gone with Edwards last night, though.
Well, it's interesting. So for the game on, when do we play next? Tomorrow, in Memphis, he's not on the injury report. So,
okay.
That's promising. In his post game or whatever, he had said there was no pain. It was more, he was just cautious, right, in that first half.
Right.
The second half, he still had, I mean, let me read you his stat line, Hugh, because it definitely felt, you're like, this is a terrible Ant game, whatever. So he only shot 23% from the field, but he had 17 points, shot 40% from three, still had 7 boards, 6 assists, a steal, and a block. So it is hard. It's obviously not a game where he gave you 35 and
right.
Whatever. But
you didn't expect that, right? You didn't expect him to just be free firing and like, oh well, you didn't get hurt the other night, so you can just do whatever you want to do. You knew that you were going to get that probably last night, right?
Oh yeah, and I think it's like when anyone now, and that team didn't play for 3 days, and that whole team was rusty. I mean, no shots were they got great looks, no shots were falling, and but Edwards hadn't played for over a week and a half or whatever. So obviously, I mean, he practiced for maybe a day or two, so he's going to have some rust, and he was taking more mid range than driving to the hoop. I think the second half you saw a little bit of bounce kind of come back, and Edwards had said his hip kind of loosened up a little bit, gave him some more confidence, I think, to jump a little bit. He had that one really nice putback dunk. So yeah, it was an interesting game. I do think it's a game that you play him in just to get ready for this absolute gauntlet.
So were they looking more so at Memphis, who, they not having a great year, but were they looking more like, let's just get over the speed bump on Wednesday night against the Spurs, get them back to playing condition, and then Friday we can let them loose? So then I would go back on my original statement and say, okay, well, maybe that's what he had to do. But yeah, he looked rusty by all accounts.
He did. And like I said, that first half, and Jim Peterson was mentioning it too. He's like, why is he playing? He's holding the hip. It didn't look good. But I also want to say, like, did it look like he was in pain? I think that was or more just discomfort or nervousness, whatever. That's kind of where I was at. It still makes you like tense up a little bit when you think about like, if this guy gets hurt for the rest of the year, I mean, that's a
Right.
a big hit.
Well, the other thing was, I mean, in some regards, you have to play who, if they are healthy, you have to play them because, we did talk about the depth of this team, but you're only playing like 9 guys a night, right? So it's not like it is next man up, or that there are all these guys waiting in the wings that are going to at least compensate a little bit for what you're missing out when Edwards is not in the lineup.
Right. And it's, I think with Ant is obviously someone who wants to play. So that's where I was a little cautious of, I think Ant would play if he was 30%, 40%, right? Like, that's just kind of the guy he is.
Right.
And that's where I got a little nervous.
Not Zion Williamson. Fuck that guy. Sorry.
But at the same time, like, with how he jumped a little bit in the second half, I felt a lot better. Just Ant's also very honest. So I think, if he was, and after he fell down, he said, yeah, I might miss a game or two. And he missed 2 games, right? So he is a guy who I think if it hurt, I think it was that hurt like a motherfucker, right? Like, it would have. So I feel a lot better, and I feel good going into this. I call it the gauntlet because, I mean, it's through like mid-January. We are playing, every team is above 500. Like, it is going to be the true test for this team. And to get him back is big. I know McDaniels is coming back. I think next week. J-Mac is questionable.
You think we'll see him next week?
I do. I know he's doing one-on-one stuff. I'm sure he'll do 5-on-5 here soon. But J-Mac is questionable for the Memphis game, which is exciting to get a backup point guard, because I'm almost at the point where you don't play Shake Milton anymore. He has been horrible, and you feel bad for the guy, but he's adding absolutely nothing to your team. He looked completely clueless on the floor yesterday, and he's going to be a trade candidate come February. So
okay. So one guy that I continue to be pleased with, I think he had 16 and 20 last night. Rudy Gobert. The thing that I find interesting about Gobert is that right now, whether he is on a guy on the perimeter or not, there are folks who are concerned about even the perimeter shot, because he's always lurking in the like a lion in the tall grass. And so the confidence of the teams that we're playing, knowing that he is always around, causes folks to second guess maybe the shot selection that they're taking, because he's, like I say, it seems like he's everywhere, or he might be there. You know what I mean? And that to me is what is so fascinating right now about Rudy Gobert.
And it's not even a second guessing the shot. More than half the time they give up. They pass out, right? Like
Right. Yes.
it is insane. And you wonder like the amount of comment. I mean, Chris Finch said like this is the best he's ever seen Rudy play. Rudy said this is the best he thinks he's ever
That's
played.
what Noah and Johnny said just the other night. So great. Okay. Just,
and
validation.
It makes you wonder, like, this guy was really good in Utah, but he's doing stuff here that he wasn't doing in Utah, to the point of the perimeter defending. And it just shows you how good this defense is around him, because he really didn't have defenders around him in Utah, and he was forced to do a lot of stuff, mainly protect the paint, and which he did very, very, very well. But now he's, like you said, he's just a lurker now, because you've got Karl-Anthony Towns, who has just been insane on defense this year, took an absolute defensive leap. Anthony Edwards has become one of the better perimeter defenders in the league. McDaniels hasn't even been in the lineup for 2+ weeks.
Yep.
You've got Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who can guard. Troy Brown Jr. can guard. Naz Reid is playing good defense. Like, it is. I don't know what happened. If it was the Rudy Gobert effect, if it was the Elston Turner effect, if it, who it was, but it's just unlocked Rudy Gobert's game. And I saw someone post this the other day. Should Rudy Gobert, with the direction this team is heading, with the impact that he makes, should he be in conversation for MVP?
I think let's not put the cart before the horse. I don't think that you can, because we're going to go down that road in just about 5 minutes. But I think it's too early for you to try to make that argument.
Yeah.
And if he continued to play the way that he is all the way across the board to the end of the year, I still don't know if I can give that to him. Because remember, we live in the United States. That's why we don't like soccer, because there's not enough explosions and there's not enough, right? I don't know if Rudy Gobert has the moxie or the wherewithal all the way across the board for him to be considered a true MVP. But I like where you're going with that.
Right, and that's what I was thinking. Truly, he must, with this play, he must be an all-star. You would hope.
You would think, but don't get me started on that either. But go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, like, minus. I mean, Edwards been hurt a couple times, but I don't think there's any denying, especially with the impact Gobert had on the San Antonio game, that he's been the team MVP this year. Okay.
So I love this because you do this to me all the time, which I'm okay with. My mind just doesn't work like it used to. You throw out things that I go, gee, man, I'm going to really have to think about that. So we talked about Rudy Gobert perhaps being a defensive player of the year, which I still completely endorse. But here's the thing. There's only one player in the history of the NBA to have ever been an NBA Defensive Player of the Year on multiple teams, on more than one team. Can you name that player? Can you name that player?
Mr. Mutombo?
Yes, sir. You caught it, didn't you? Yes. Yes.
That was going to be my guess anyways, but
oh, you were. You would have had that anyways? Okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, Trying to think who else. Multiple teams. Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. The only one player in the history of the NBA that won that, meaning that's what that guy's all about. And like we said that early on, we think that he is back to that, and like to me, that would be a pretty big deal. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and he's not even back to the level. He's above the level, right? Like he is playing just the best basketball of his career. It's just a joy to watch. It's so fun to see. Just with how last year went too, right? And I think he was getting Rudy chance in Target Center the other day too, which was it's cool to see, and I think the team is really rallying around him as the complete anchor of the team. So
okay, so I'm gonna give credit because I think it's important for maybe the first podcast of the year of the existence of the show. I'm gonna call him Tim Conley, not Tim Conway. Tim Conley said something that really it made sense, and I want to make sure that it's all fine. Like everyone accused me of being negative, and now recently I've been very positive about a lot of things, even with a Vikings breakdown, whatever. Okay, so Tim Conley said, and you got to respect 16-4, you really do. However, Tim Conley said, ain't no banners being raised for going 16-4. Okay. We didn't do anything, not yet. We haven't won a playoff series in 2 decades. So it's all fine and good for everyone to be sucking each other's toes about how great and fun it's been to watch the Wolves. But we know it's a long season. We know there's 60 more games to be played. And I'm not drinking the Rolling Rock Kool-Aid quite yet. It's been fun, but we can't notch anything up. And by the way, did we say this before? The Wolves had the best month winning percentage than any team in Minnesota professional history. I believe they beat the 91 Minnesota Twins as far as win-loss percentage in 1 month's time. So that's all fine and good. We can all start sucking each other's thing, but we ain't won anything. There's nothing to put amongst the Lynx, banners in the rafters of the Target Center. And I think it's important to recognize that, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's tough for Minnesota fans because this doesn't happen to us. So
right.
I think you need to absolutely enjoy and bask in the glory right now of 16-4 because this is the best month of basketball I've ever seen my team play. I grew up with shitty teams. I watched
I've been a Wolves fan since the 80s, dude. Okay. It's the best basketball they've ever played. It's the best start they've ever had. And don't get me started on Ticket. That's my boy. Okay. But never had a start like this ever.
No. And that's why I think it's great. It's great to celebrate. And I think it's fun for the team. But like Conley said, right. Like you didn't win anything. And if you fall off and whatever, you can't just, we win 16-4. No one gives a shit, right? It's how you end the year. And
is this, we talked about sustainable the other night. Is this a realistic, sustainable idea going ahead? Like, do you think we're going to be 36-8? Right? Like, you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. And to me, I think it would be different if I hadn't seen some of the wins that we had. Because everyone, all the Wolves haters out there, on Twitter, because there are a lot for whatever reason. I don't know what the Timberwolves ever. I don't know, like we probably lost you 1,000 times and you somehow hate our franchise, but
no, they're the worst franchise in North American history.
But why hate? Why not enjoy? Everyone loved when the Kings had a great year last year and thought it was this complete underdog story, which is great and it was awesome. But why are we not anyways? So everyone's
you want more accolades or more love from national folks? Because I'll tell you what, I'd rather be the underdog every day and twice on Sunday than people going, hey, the Wolves are the new okay, because that's when the sand crumbles underneath you.
No, and I'm not saying that because that's exactly how the Kings were treated last year, essentially, of like, we didn't expect this. They're not the new Warriors, but it's a fun team to watch.
Right.
And that just because I'm trying to think of who was Richard Jefferson just absolutely hates the Wolves, and it's fun to watch.
He's not still playing in the NBA.
No, he's been out for yeah. Anyways, so people were posting, you know, whoa, the Wizards in 2021 started out 10-3 and were horrible the rest of the year. It's like, yeah, but that Wizards team played a lot of easy teams right away, and so did we. But you have to look at the trajectory.
But you got to look at the both sides of it. Like, has our game been any different against Boston or against Oklahoma City at down players? I mean, when I say sustainable, I'm not talking about winning 16 of your next 20 games, but I'm saying I don't see the team losing 10 in a row or maybe even 4 in a row right now, because I think that the culture is that right now in the locker room, that this is the team we're going to put on the floor every night, regardless of who's in the starting lineup. This is the kind of brand of basketball that we're going to bring every night.
And that's what I was going to say was, I think of the guys you had in the locker room, right? Like if this team was 16-4 a couple of years ago, and you know, Karl Anthony Towns was your number one guy, maybe he was your oldest guy on the team, absolutely not sustainable.
Right.
When you look at who you have on this team, a 36-year-old Mike Conley, a 30-whatever-year-old Kyle Anderson, an older Rudy Gobert, like you've got vets who've won before, and guys that like people are hungry. Like when you watch Nickeil Alexander-Walker play, this guy is you can just see the fight. And when you watch videos from practice, whatever, like they just feel different. They look different. They act different. They want to win. And that's the difference. I think it's not about being flashy anymore. It's about getting the job done at the end of the day. And that's what we've seen from a lot of these games that we would have lost in the past.
Yep.
It's not about being whatever. It's let's just get the win and go home.
And you brought that up earlier in earlier podcasts about games that we normally lose, like games in Charlotte, or I'd even say the game against San Antonio last night, same deal. Like I was like, damn, we're not going to win this game. Oh, wait, it's a different Wolves team. So like I say, I'm not drinking any Kool-Aid yet to say, you know, you want to crown them. But at least it's a lot of fun to watch this team right now. And that we'll just keep going with that. Now, based on that, I don't know, I'm guessing you didn't, but there was another pro team that played last night, and they won again, the Minnesota Wild. So I'm going to once again put you on the hook here. Both teams are playing incredible with their respective sports, all right? And the Wolves have won how many in a row right now?
I think it's five in a row.
Okay. The Wild has won 4 in a row. They play tonight against Vancouver. And I believe their next 3 games are Vancouver, Edmonton, and the Seattle Kraken. To me, 2 of those 3 games should be wins. You have the Wolves who have Memphis on Friday.
Pelicans.
What the Pelicans and then Dallas, right? So I put this to you, Noah Stoerzinger, or which team's going to lose first? Which team's going to break the streak? Because, midnight seems to be striking very, very close. It might be 11:58, 11:59 for either one of those teams, but can you knock it back to 10:30? Okay, so my question is, which of those 2 teams are going to be the first one to fall?
So, what's the order for the Wild? Vancouver.
They got
Edmonton,
Vancouver
Seattle
tonight at 9:00. Then they have Edmonton, and then Seattle. Okay. And then the Wolves have Memphis tomorrow night. New Orleans, is that Sunday or Monday?
I think it's Sunday.
Sunday, and then Dallas Tuesday.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with the Wild. Are gonna lose first.
Okay. Which game?
So I'm leaning between Seattle or Edmonton.
Wow. So Vancouver's the only one that's got a winning record out of those 3.
And I think, I think that'll be. I think you're on the hot streak right now, right? So I think you're gonna win. I think they're gonna win that game. Now, the reason I think they will lose first is, I think the Wolves will play a similar game in Memphis where kind of teeter-totter, whatever. Fourth quarter, they'll pull together. They play the Pelicans on Sunday. It's good team. Zion will be back. Hopefully, I want to see him play the Wolves. Like, stop ducking the Wolves.
Right.
Whatever.
Right. Wow.
Now they did just make the championship for the in-season tournament. If they were to win that, I mean, they'll be coming from Las Vegas. I think there'll be a little bit of a hangover or whatever there, especially if you're winning 500,000. You got some young guys that are probably going to go spend that and have a good time. And I think that gives the upper hand to the Wolves. Dallas will be a tough game for sure, just with Luka and everything there. But I'm going to go with the Wild. I think the Wolves can outlast a little longer, but it's been fun to see these 2 teams play.
Yeah, right. I was going to go with the Wild as well, only because they have Vancouver on the road. Edmonton and Seattle are actually not playing very good hockey, but it's the NHL at home, I was going to go with the Wild as well, but that's what's so cool about pro sports is you never know which team. Like San Antonio on the road, and I didn't think they did anything to say you should be still in this game, and yet here we are. You know what I mean? So I'm going to say let's go with the next 3 for both teams. Let's get W's. The whole schmear.
So I was going to ask you, because I was looking at this earlier today. We go into what I'm calling the gauntlet for the Wolves here. January, you've got 11 games, including, not January, sorry, December. The rest of December, you got 11 more games from Memphis all the way to, I can't remember who we play last, but every team has a winning record.
Right.
What is your prediction for the Wolves record in these 11 games? We're 16-4 now. What do you think we come out of the month in?
I would say,
so I'll tell you my guess here in a second.
I'm going to go with 7-4.
Okay. So I was going to go 7-4 is my first guess. And I think that's what I want to go with. I think if you want to I think that's what you got to do. 7-4 or better is what you have to do to show that you are a contender, right? Especially because every game is going to be a big game. So So going 7-4, I mean, it puts you at what 21-8 on the season. And January too, like half of January is same thing. Every team's over 500. Now that can always change. Teams go on cold streaks, hot streaks, whatever. How long are the Orlando Magic going to keep up the magic in Orlando? It'll be interesting to see. I think if you could even come out 8-3, I mean, how nice would that be?
Yeah, right.
But I would be. I get
to the fucking point where I'm like, no, let's go 11-0. As long as you keep winning games, let's talk until you lose that first game, and then we'll go talk about what the record's going to be. You know what I mean? And obviously, I know chances are in 11 games you're going to lose one, or you may lose several. You know what I mean? But until we lose, let's keep riding it, man.
Yeah. What record would you be? What's the lowest amount of wins in that 11-game stretch that you would be okay with?
Comfortable with? 5.
Yeah.
5.
So go 5-6, really.
Well, no, that's losses, right? 5 losses.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought
5. I would go, okay, a little bit back to reality, but you still got to play basketball. If you go 5-6 or you go more, so then I think that gives you more of an idea of who this team is. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. And I do like this is it's always a tough month in the season because I think this is the month that shows who's really gonna kind of contend for the most part. I think December and maybe that first 3 quarters of January kind of shows what teams are what before you get to February trade deadline. Regardless of what we are, well, depends. But if we're still a winning ball club, like there are going to be moves that need to be made still. And I think that absolutely shows with what Conley said of, you don't get prizes for being 16-4.
Yeah,
we
right.
want to hang a banner. If you want to do that, you're going to have to make some moves. And Conley's not been shy about making some big splashes. I don't think you'll see a big, like people are saying Towns will get traded. He's not going to get traded.
No. And I think you would be very foolish to even entertain that idea right now. Now, we had talked about that, a preseason time or whatever. And I think how I feel about Karl-Anthony Towns, but you got to be an idiot to think that's even a legitimate thing. Like, once again, ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay. Exactly. And right now it ain't broke. And Towns is finally getting to the point where back to his rookie year. And someday I'll show you the signed rookie of the year ball by Karl-Anthony Towns. I like that guy coming in. Now I'm starting it's a renewed love affair right now with Karl-Anthony Towns. Who's the fucking idiot that would even suggest that you would trade him? No way.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I think it'll be interesting to see Conley not make a big move this offseason. I mean, obviously with the Rudy, the D'Lo deal, to me, a big trade, like I'll keep saying it. Bring Tyus Jones to Minnesota, man. Bring Tyus Jones. I don't think it'll happen, but man, that would be a dream for this team. But
okay. Final thing now. Can you tell me now? I did watch the Indiana-Milwaukee season and tournament game, and I got to tell you, it was entertaining. It was a very entertaining game. But they still got to figure some things out because as the Wolves seem to be feasting high on the hog after the tournament, they're playing, lower 500 teams. Do you happen to know who lost to Milwaukee in the in-season tournament just recently? I think like last night.
Who would that have been there? Wasn't the Cavs?
Was it Cleveland?
Was it Cleveland?
Bottom line is They have to go out and play the Boston Celtics next because they lost as well. And I'm thinking, now wait a minute. They have to actually now put their gloves on and duke it out with a really good team for losing. Where the Wolves like, we didn't make the tournament. We're not in Vegas. And we now get to beat up on lower tier teams. That's what I'm saying. They got to figure. There's some things they got to figure it out.
Yeah, because I mean, maybe that's what it is. It's like if you keep winning, you have to face harder teams. If you want to win the cup, you gotta face harder teams. But then it's like, all right, if I want to get more wins on the season, do I just lose basically one in-season tournament game and then I get to face easier teams?
Right. Well, now, but those games don't count on the record, right? Like, I don't know why would you have a loser. What's that?
I don't think the last two. I think the semifinals. Right,
and so that matchup with Boston, that's not going to count win-loss because that's not a scheduled game, right? But why play a loser's bracket anyways? And that, send those teams home. Count. What's that?
It might count. It might count. I have to read the rules again or whatever. But
so once again, they got to figure some shit out.
It was the Knicks, by the way.
Oh, it was the Knicks. That's right.
Yeah.
Which they've been a hard luck case for so many years. And I guess that only backs up what I'm saying. So you finally get to the in-season tournament, quarterfinals, whatever. And I guess you lose and you get to play another really good team because you lost. Send them home, And right, Vegas should never be in Vegas in the first fucking place. So, anyways,
you think it should be at your home court?
No, anywhere but Vegas. Fuck Las Vegas. Okay, there it is. I said it.
Where would you play it? Boise, Idaho?
The Bahamas?
Hawaii would be kind of cool. Or like
Hawaii, because they're never going to get a team. So, might well.
Puerto Rico?
And you're not going to get in as much trouble in Hawaii than you are in Vegas. But that's my deal. All right.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure we've gone over the limit tonight, correct? All right.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to pump a couple every week out now and maybe even try to pay some bills doing this, right? So, well, for one of the guys that wasn't on the Fab Five at the University of Michigan, I'm Jonny Voss with Noah Stoerzinger. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week.